Nishingadev prayers or just Jaya Radha Madhava? No. What now? Do what? Okay.
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodarandana Jaya Brajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravarachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Goswami Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodarandana Jaya Brajanaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tirabharachari Jaya Gunja Vihari Jaya Gunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada.
ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Sankirtan Yagya ki, Srila Sanatana Goswami ki, Go Premanande. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
So, welcome devotees to Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Temple and for our Sunday Love Feast. Today's Ekadashi Love Feast is prepared by the Srila Prabhupada Prema Namahata, that is the Lotus Park Namahata, led by His Grace Doyle Chaitanya Das. So if you would like to be part of this weekly initiative, either by cleaning vegetables or either contributing financially, kindly connect with him at the serve-out area. Just a reminder that you please switch off your cell phones while Maharaj is conducting his class. Our topic for today is Sanatana Goswami, the humble path. The Goswamis are renowned for their humility. We look at the pastime of Sanatana Goswami's trek to see Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri and how we can learn the elements of humility from him. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, and he is none other than His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj. So Maharaj is from New Zealand, and he joined ISKCON in 1972, and he came to South Africa in 1980.
They all know all this.
Just a little Maharaj. Apart from his many services, Maharaj is the chairperson of the GBC for ISKCON South Africa. And this year, Maharaj has introduced the study of Srimad Bhagavatam as the Bhakti Vaibhav course. So we are very, very grateful to Maharaj for that. And we'd like to thank Maharaj for making Shri Shri Radha Radhanath his place of residence. So devotees, please put your hands up in the air and give a nice Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Hari Bol to His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. Hari Bol!
Hari Bol!
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for not drawing it out too long. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatarne Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha Paditanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Srila Prabhupada ki jai Srila Sanatana Goswami ki jai. Devotees, today as Mataji announced, we're going to talk about Srila Sanatana Goswami, the oldest, the most senior of the 6 Goswamis, the very, very close associates of Lord Chaitanya. And it is on Wednesday, this Wednesday coming, it is the disappearance day of Srila Sanatana Goswami, the anniversary of the day on which he left this world many years ago. Not quite 500, but close on 500 years ago. He left this world at Govardhan Hill, on the banks of a place called Manasi Ganga. So yes, and as it happens, it coincides with the disappearance day of His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami, who's well known, I'm sure, to many elevated devotee and very, very close associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, first of all, let us read a verse from it's actually from Gaur Ganadesh Dipika of Kavi Karanapura, one of our very significant Vaishnav literatures, and it's just explaining who is Sanatana Goswami. Sarupa Manjari Presiha Purasid Rati Manjari Shochate Nama Bedena Lavanga Manjari Budhai. So Kavi Karanapur is saying, Rupa Manjari's closest friend, Rupa Manjari incidentally is the leader of the assistants of Srimati Radharani in her pastimes with Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. So Rupa Manjari is very, very intimate associate and assistant of Shri Radha and Krishna. And Rupa Manjari appeared in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya as Rupa Goswami, who was spiritually the leader of the 6 Goswamis. Sanatana Goswami was actually his older brother and was even accepted by Rupa Goswami as being one of his spiritual masters. But Rupa Goswami generally is held to be spiritually the leader of the 6 Goswamis. So Rupa Manjari from Krishna Lila is Rupa Goswami in Chaitanya Leela. So this verse we just read the Sanskrit of is identifying who is Sanatana Goswami in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in relation to Rupa Manjari, to Rupa Goswami, who's Rupa Manjari in Krishna Leela. So Rupa Manjari's closest friend, who was known by the names Rati Manjari and Lavanga Manjari, appeared in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Sri Sanatana Goswami, who was considered to be a personal extension of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sanatana Goswami, considered to be a personal extension of the body of Lord Chaitanya. This is Sanatana Goswami. In Krishna Leela, two names for one person. Rati Manjari. Generally, Sanatana Goswami is in Krishna Leela referred to as Rati Manjari, but also Lavanga Manjari is the name which is given sometimes. So here's another verse. This is a verse from Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, another one of the 6 Goswamis, who was very, very close to Sanatana Goswami and accepted Sanatana Goswami as one of his gurus. Vairagayug bhakti rasam prayatnair apayenam mam anabipsam andham kripambodirya paraduka duki sanatanam tam prabhum ashrayami. Translation, so Raghunath Das Goswami speaking, I was unwilling to drink the nectar of devotional service, possessed of renunciation. But Sanatana Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, made me drink it, even though I was unable to do so. Therefore, he is an ocean of mercy. He is very much compassionate to fallen souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet and take shelter of him. Yes, so that's Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the 6 Goswamis, expressing his appreciation for Sanatana Goswami. And here, devotees, I'll read, it's like a couple of paragraphs, or even one, you could say, from Bhakti Ratnakara. It's a glorification, appreciation of Sanatana Goswami and of Rupa Goswami together. So listen to this, it's very beautiful. A large number of the associates of the Lord tried to sing the glories of Sanatana and Rupa, but could not describe them completely. All glories to Sanatana and Rupa, my very life, who gave direction to countless people. They were the only persons who knew the Vaishnav practices. Within Vrindavan, they were the reservoirs of natural love and mercy. They were oceans of kindness and friends of the poor. They were the foremost amongst devotees. Only Sanatana and Rupa knew how to behave according to the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and other bhakti scriptures. All 3 worlds praised their characters. The dust of their lotus feet cooled the earth from the scorching rays of the sun of Kali. They continually worshipped Srila Vyasadeva and the holy feet of Sri Radha. All glories to Sanatana and Rupa, the jewels of all ascetics, who had unflinching devotion to Sri Radha and Krishna. Giving up all worldly pleasures, they sang the glories of the groves of Vrindavan and the feet of Sri Radha. Therefore, these two brothers were gifts from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the ocean of mercy, and in their absence I have become an orphan. So it's very amazing. Very amazing. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, they're very, very amazing brothers. So we'll tell you some of their pastimes now and try and bring out some of their characteristics and qualities like that. So they were living in a place called Ramakeli, which is north of Mayapur, if you're familiar with the geography there. Quite a way, like 300 or 400, maybe 400 kilometers north, still in West Bengal. And they were so extremely intelligent that the Muslim ruler of Bengal forcibly engaged them in service in his government. It is something of a long story, but that's the basic idea. And Rupa Goswami became the Minister of Finance, and Sanatana Goswami became the Prime Minister. So, in other words, he particularly was extremely intelligent, incredibly intelligent, in a Muslim government, a very heavy Muslim government, to become the Prime Minister when you're definitely not a Muslim. That means his qualification was really on an extremely high level. But of course he was not happy doing that. He and Rupa, they were not happy doing that. And one time, Lord Chaitanya came there and met the two of them and initiated them as Rupa and Sanatana. And after that had happened, they decided no more of this Muslim government business. We are just getting out. So Rupa Goswami made a quick escape and he got away. Sanatana Goswami, though he was the Prime Minister, and it was much more difficult for him. So he actually just gave up his responsibilities. He just stopped doing his job and stayed at home with devotees, hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Muslim ruler sent people to check up what is happening with this man. And they found out he's not sick, he's just sort of retired himself. So the ruler had him arrested and placed in jail. The jail is still there in Ramakeli, actually, where he was imprisoned. So when Rupa Goswami made his escape, he left 7,000 gold coins with one of the local business people. 7,000 gold coins. You know, each coin is probably an ounce or something. So you can do a little calculation if you keep up with the price of gold. we're talking about that it's worth millions. So, but now Sanatana Goswami is imprisoned, and that business person informed him, I have this money. If it can help with your escape, let's use it. So Sanatana Goswami bribed the jail keeper and told him that you are a saintly person. He's a Muslim gentleman. I want to go on pilgrimage to Mecca. So if you facilitate me to get out so I can go to Mecca, I'll give you these 7,000 gold coins, multi-million rand or dollar fortune. And again, it's a bit of a long story, but the man agreed and let Sanatana Goswami go. Sanatana told him, you can tell the other people, the prison people, the government people, tell them you took me down to the river to pass stool with iron shackles on, and I jumped in and I drowned and got washed away. So the man let him go and took the 7,000 gold coins. And then Sanatana Goswami was on his way to join Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was on his way back from Vrindavan, sort of following the Ganges, the Yamuna, down in the direction of Bengal, but he was further up. He was in what is current day UP. And Sanatana Goswami wanted to go and meet with him. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. And they stayed. He took his assistant Ishan with him. Ishan had taken 8 gold coins from the 7,000. Sanatana Goswami was not aware, and he was just keeping them. They stayed overnight in one boarding house, and the owner was so friendly and so nice that Sanatana Goswami understood something's wrong. Too much devotion is the sign of a thief. So he asked the man just very straightforwardly, or he told the man, we have some gold coins here. Would you like them? Take them. And the man said, yeah, well, we were told actually by an astrologer that you had these gold coins. We were going to kill you tonight and just take them. But we'll accept the gold coins, and I'll give you someone to take you through the mountains to the other side, and you carry on with your mission. And in this way, Sanatana Goswami escaped. And he met Lord Chaitanya in Varanasi at the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya, who was previously from Mayapur area and a very close associate of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya was staying with him. But Sanatana Goswami at that point, he had been a member of the Muslim government, as we said, and externally he adopted like the dress of the Muslims. And, I don't know if you know, but in many cases, Muslim men will have a beard, but they won't have a mustache. Whereas the Hindus will have a mustache, but not a beard. So he was like that. He had a beard, but no mustache. Yeah. And he was dressed as a Muslim, just because that was how he had been forced to live. So Sanatana Goswami arrived at the house of Chandrasekhar, where Lord Chaitanya was staying. And Lord Chaitanya said to Chandrasekhar, you know, there's a Vaishnav just outside your house. Can you call him in? And Chandrasekhar went out, and he saw Sanatana Goswami dressed as a Muslim, and he'd been climbing through the mountains, so he was not clean and looking really sort of weather-beaten. A weather-beaten Muslim mendicant sort of thing. And Chandrasekhar came back in and told Lord Chaitanya, my Lord, there's no Vaishnav there. There's just a Muslim mendicant. And Lord Chaitanya said, bring him in. So Chandrasekhar couldn't understand why Lord Chaitanya wanted to see this person, but he brought him in. And Lord Chaitanya, so Chandrasekhar went out and said, "O Muslim mendicant, please come in. The Lord is calling you." So in he came, and he entered the courtyard of Chandrasekhar's house with Chandrasekhar. Lord Chaitanya jumped up and embraced him. And Sanatana embraced Lord Chaitanya, and Chandrasekhar couldn't understand what is happening. So Lord Chaitanya embraced him. Sanatana said, "Oh, my Lord, please don't touch me." But they're embracing and crying on each other's shoulders. Chandrasekhar is very astonished. And Sanatana said again, "My Lord, please don't touch me." And the Lord replied, "I'm touching you just to purify myself, because by the force of your devotional service, you can purify the whole universe." So like this, Sanatana Goswami was reunited with Lord Chaitanya and freed from his, you could say, virtual imprisonment within the Muslim government and sort of in the Muslim society. And he went to Vrindavan for a little while. Then he came back from there and spent time with Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. And then after some months, Lord Chaitanya told him, "Now you go back to Vrindavan and you stay there. And you uncover the sacred places and you write about Lord Krishna, Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. And that is your mission." So Sanatana went there and lived there for the rest of his life. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, we read how it was said he was extremely close to Lord Chaitanya, very, very close to him. A personal extension of the body of Lord Chaitanya. So Chaitanya Charitamrita says that when they parted, when the Lord sent Sanatana Goswami back to Vrindavan to stay there and develop, uncover Vrindavan for the world and for us. So when Sanatana left, Chaitanya Charitamrita says the emotions exchanged between Sanatana and Lord Chaitanya were so overwhelming. Chaitanya Charitamrita says it cannot be described. So they were very, very close. Sanatana Goswami really meant a lot to Lord Chaitanya. So there are many pastimes, actually, of any of the 6 Goswamis, in terms of pastimes, activities, we have more about Sanatana Goswami than any of the others. Interesting. And some really amazing pastimes. I want to tell you one right now. It's very instructive and it's really very amazing. It's described in great detail in a book called Bhakti Ratnakara, which we read from, those verses glorifying Rupa and Sanatan. And there's a little introduction to this pastime. Listen to this. The author is addressing us, and he says, "Please be always careful in your dealings with the devotees. Let not ill feelings arise in the devotees' hearts. If the devotees think ill of you, that will be a great impediment to your progress. Now I will tell an anecdote to reveal this truth." So then he tells this whole story, and it's sort of 80% about Rupa Goswami, but it culminates with Sanatana Goswami. Rupa Goswami getting into some difficulty and Sanatana Goswami sorting out the difficulty in a very expert way. So this is the story. I'll just tell you the story. Rupa Goswami was there in Vrindavan, and as was his program, he was chanting. And when he would chant, he would often enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and just lose contact with the external reality, or so-called reality, and just go into this other world, the spiritual world. So one day he was sitting there chanting, and this happened. And he entered into a pastime of Radha and Krishna in which Srimati Radharani was decorating herself secretly in preparation for meeting with Lord Krishna, but secretly. So he, Krishna, would not see her until she was ready. So, in this pastime, Radharani's gopi associates are decorating her, and someone's doing her hair from behind because she has long, long black hair, which she keeps in a plait, a single plait. But Krishna found out, and Krishna came sneaking up from behind Radharani. So Radharani could not see. The gopis saw, but Krishna told them, just don't say anything or do anything, just carry on. So they did. And Krishna came up behind Srimati Radharani and took over the service of the one gopi who was preparing her hair from behind. And Krishna, touching the hair of Radharani and arranging it. And Srimati Radharani, because Krishna's touch is sort of like, you could say is something like electricity. It's very powerful, but very wonderful. So Radharani feels, this gopi here behind me is doing such a wonderful job. And she started telling the gopi, Krishna, you're doing so nicely. Feels so wonderful. Krishna didn't say anything, he just carried on. In a little while, Radharani picked up a mirror to have a look, see how she looked, and she saw behind her, it's Krishna. And everybody just roared with laughter. They just laughed and laughed. And Rupa Goswami, as Rupa Manjari, who was in the pastime there, he was in it, taking part. He also laughed and laughed in the pastime as Rupa Manjari. But back in the external reality, Rupa Goswami laughed. Or rather, his body laughed. His body laughed. Now, there was one elderly devotee who was partially, he was an old man and kind of bent and struggling to walk along. And he's walking along. He wanted to meet with Rupa Goswami. There's Rupa Goswami. And suddenly Rupa Goswami apparently is just looking straight at him. Little does the elderly devotee know that Rupa Goswami can't see anything because he's in another world with Radha and Krishna. But suddenly Rupa Goswami, looking straight at him, suddenly Rupa Goswami just roared with laughter. And this elderly devotee, he couldn't understand. Wow, he's laughing at me. What have I done? Oh no, I must have done something wrong, something really stupid, something offensive. Oh no, what to do? And he knew that Sanatana Goswami was staying not far away. So he thought, I know, I will go and ask Sanatana Goswami to help me understand what have I done so Rupa Goswami will treat me like this, like I'm just some idiot. So off he went. At that moment, Rupa Goswami came out of the trance. He just suddenly sort of snapped out of it and found himself back in external consciousness. And he, from in the middle of that pastime, and Rupa Goswami thought, what happened? This is terrible. It's like he got thrown out of the pastime. And he tried to enter into it again, but he couldn't. And he thought, what to do? Something has happened here. What had happened was that old Vaishnav felt very disturbed. As a result, Rupa Goswami's meditation had been just broken just like that. So Rupa Goswami was wondering, what has happened? Have I done something? Did I create an offense? I don't understand what to do. And then he thought, I know, Sanatana Goswami is staying nearby. Let me go and ask him. So off he went. And Sanatana Goswami is just like a couple of 100 yards away, something like that. So the elderly devotee was already there, meeting with Sanatana Goswami. And the elderly devotee, Sanatana Goswami, had explained the situation. The elderly devotee explained what happened. He laughed at me like I'd done something really, really weird. And Sanatana Goswami understood and explained he was in Radha and Krishna's pastimes. Something happened there. That's why he laughed. It's nothing to do with you. So the elderly devotee, he's feeling happy. More happy at least. And then suddenly Rupa Goswami appears on the scene. So, seeing, now the elderly devotees with Sanatana, so they're both there. Now, here comes Rupa Goswami. So, seeing Rupa coming, that Vaishnava approached him. Falling on the ground, that Vaishnav offered his respects. To Sri Rupa, he very humbly said, I committed an offense. O great soul, please forgive me. I did not understand how you were wrapped in meditation when I came. Standing before Srila Rupa Goswami, the Vaishnav prayed, please kindly forgive my offense. If you are merciful to me, then my heart can become peaceful. This I say to you. Hearing these words, Sri Rupa became very agitated at heart. Falling to the ground, he offered respectful obeisances. Folding his hands, he said, I have no power to say how great was the offense I committed to you. Please kindly forgive my offense. Both devotees were very humble. Both were filled with the nectar of pure devotion. They both forgave each other. Then they both became peaceful. They both approached Srila Sanatana Goswami. For many moments, they were all plunged in the nectar of talking about Lord Krishna. Everyone heard of this incident with Srila Rupa Goswami. Hearing of it, everyone became filled with wonder. So now here, devotees, some instructions. Listen to this. O my brothers and sisters, please be very careful in dealing with the Vaishnavas. Give them even your very breath, so they will forgive your offense. Be careful. Do not see a Vaishnav's faults. Always praise the Vaishnavas. The ancient great devotees say, no one understands the ways of a Vaishnav. Through his dear devotees, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya has taught this truth to us. Hold the devotee's lotus feet to your head and always dive in the nectar of pure devotional service. So you see, Sanatana was expert. If people had difficulties, some anxieties, some problems were there, including interpersonal problems, he could sort anything out. Here's another such story. And again, Sanatana Goswami just comes in at the end, but still it's all about Sanatana Goswami. So Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami were living at a particular place in Vrindavan called Nandagat. It's sort of up the Yamuna, a little distance, maybe 10 kilometers further up from Vrindavan town. And Jiva Goswami was serving Rupa Goswami, who he had accepted basically as a spiritual master. One day, a very proud scholar came and said to, his name was Vallabhabhata, and he said to Rupa Goswami, he said, you know, I hear you're doing a lot of writing. I'd like to help you. I'd like to edit your writing. And Rupa Goswami very humbly said, oh, that's just wonderful. You're so kind. Thank you very much. And the puffed up scholar said, show me some of your writing. Let me have a look. So Rupa Goswami gave him something, and this man's going through it and making suggestions that instead of saying this here, why don't you say that? And instead of saying something else here, why don't you say another thing? And Rupa Goswami is just saying, oh, thank you so much. But Jiva's sitting there listening to it all, thinking, these so-called corrections, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's He's saying to change something which is perfect already. So Jiva Goswami was really upset. After a little while, Rupa Goswami said to the scholar, "Have lunch with us. First of all, go down, take a bath in the Yamuna. Jiva will take you, and then come back and have lunch." So on the way down to the Yamuna, Jiva Goswami said, "You know, where you said that Rupa Goswami said something, but you said it'd be better to say something else, you know, what he said was right. What Rupa Goswami said was right." And he showed the man. And the man said, "Oh, yeah, actually, you're right." And Jiva Goswami had memorized all the changes the man suggested. He went through every single one and showed the man how it was better the way Rupa Goswami initially had it. And he did this really strongly. He really got into it. And at the end, the man was in a state of shock. Elderly man. So they went back after taking bath in the Yamuna. And Rupa Goswami said, "Okay, so let's take lunch." And the scholar said, "No, no, no, I'm getting out of here. Your assistant is so heavy." He chastised me and corrected me, and he was right, but he's just too heavy. And off he went. And Rupa Goswami got very angry with Jiva and said, "Look at this man, he's very senior, famous scholar, and you've offended him? Who do you think you are?" And he told Jiva, "You go back to Navadvip, back to Bengal, until you learn some manners." And told him just to get out of Vrindavan. You're not ready to live in Vrindavan. So off went Jiva, feeling very disturbed because he knew that what he had done was right. So off he went, and he's feeling just more and more distressed as he thought about it. Eventually, while still in the Vrindavan area, he decided to take up residence in a crocodile hole in the bank of the Yamuna and fast till death. So there he was, just chanting, fasting till death. And the local village people, they found him there and they offered him food, prasadam, and come and stay with us. But he was saying, "No, no, no, I'm just going to stay here till I die." He wouldn't eat, wouldn't drink. And they were really upset because he's such a nice young devotee. Some days later, Sanatana Goswami came by because he was always on parikrama. He was always walking around Vrindavan, the greater Vrindavan area, 168 square miles. And one day he came to that village, and the villagers told him, "There's this young sannyasi here. He's very upset. He's fasting to death. Please go and help him." And Sanatana went and found it's Jiva, who actually was his nephew. It's Jiva. And Jiva Goswami explained what had happened. And Sanatana understood, and he thought, "I've got to sort this out now. Let me go and speak to Rupa." So he went and spoke to Rupa, and he told Rupa. He didn't just tell him, "Listen, give Jiva Goswami another chance, will you?" He was very sort of strategic about it. He said, "Rupa, you remember, Lord Chaitanya told us, Nam Sankirtan. We must chant the holy names." And Rupa said, "Yes, right. Yes, we must chant the holy names. That's wonderful." And Sanatana said, yes. And he said, we must study Srimad Bhagavatam. And Rupa said, yeah, that's right. We must study the Bhagavatam. Oh, it's just great. And Sanatana said, and Lord Chaitanya told us, we must be merciful to the jivas. And Rupa said, yes, right. We must be merciful to the jivas and help them in Krishna consciousness. Mercy for the jivas, ki jai. And Sanatana said, well, I happen to know one jiva, and he needs your mercy. And Rupa understood. So then Sanatana brought jiva, and Rupa and jiva were reunited by the wonderful intervention of Sanatana Goswami. And there were many things he did like that, many things, working with the devotees, because his expertise was, as Prime Minister, interpersonal relationships, sorting things out, getting people to do things they might not want to do, and things like that. Here's another little story. Listen to this. This is a nice little story. There are many, but this is a nice little story. That Srila Rupa Goswami, living in Vrindavan, Sanatana Goswami is living at Radhakund, Shamakund, actually on the banks of Shamakund. His bhajan kuti is still there. So Rupa Goswami was writing, and whenever he'd finish writing something, he'd bring it to Sanatana at Radhakund to check, because he accepted Sanatana as one of his spiritual masters and spiritual authority. So one time, Rupa Goswami wrote a poem. It's called Chatu Pushpanjali. Chatu Pushpanjali means 4 offerings of flowers at the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani. It's a description of Srimati Radharani. And in it, and that poem is still there. You can get copies in English. Very beautiful description of Srimati Radharani. And at the end of the first verse, Rupa Goswami says, Srimati Radharani has long black hair, which she keeps in a single plait, which hangs right down her back, all the way down, this long black plait. And when she walks, the plait moves. And when the plait moves, it looks like a black snake. And Sanatana Goswami looked at this and he thought, what? Black snake? Srimati Radharani? Like a black snake? That's not very nice. Why did he say that? But then he's Rupa Goswami. How could it be wrong? So he's checking. Rupa Goswami asked him, please check this and make comments and help me to improve it. So Sanatana, now he's bewildered. Radharani, black snake? That's terrible. But it's Rupa Goswami. He can't make a mistake. What to do? So he didn't do anything, because he felt he couldn't do anything. After some days or something, Rupa Goswami came back and said, have you finished with my poem? And Sanatana didn't know what to say. He said, well, I don't know. I'm still working on it. Just now coming. And he didn't know what to do, so he took the poem and he went and sat outside on the banks of Shamakund, just perplexed. And as he's sitting there, looking out across Shamakund, just not knowing what on earth to do, some local village girls came out on the other side of Shamakund and started playing a ball game. These young village girls throwing a ball back and forth and jumping and laughing and just having a good time together. And Sanatana Goswami's looking at them, and he saw one girl. She had her back to him, and he saw a black snake came and started climbing up her back. So Sanatana Goswami jumped up and shouted, "Snake, watch out, snake!" And the girls, got all sort of flummoxed. "Where's the snake? Where? It's on her back! Look out!" And they looked on the back of the girl, and they all just roared with laughter and said, "That's not a snake. It's her hair. It's her plait." Oh, and they laughed, and Sanatana felt embarrassed. But then suddenly, those girls vanished. They didn't just quickly run away or something. Suddenly, they were just not there. And he understood. That was Srimati Radharani and the gopis. And they wanted to show me that what Rupa Goswami says is right. So then Rupa Goswami came over and said, "Come on now, I want to take this poem. You must have finished with it by now." And Sanatana said, yes, right, okay, you can take it. He handed it over, said, I think it's really nice. It is a beautiful poem. And especially that part about Radharani's hair looking like a black snake. That's just really wonderful. So like this, Sanatana Goswami sorted things out. And there are many things. There's so many things. But anyway, I think we've come to time, or we're coming to time. I don't know if there is time. No, there's not. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Srila Sanatana Goswami Ki, Gaur Premanande. Haribol. Okay, so everyone can stand up for Arati.